walking, talking video. I haven't done one of these for a while. So, just before I came out, having spent a couple of hours doing my music, I looked at the comments, and there was a comment from one woman, and she said this in relation to what I've been saying in my videos about, tell me something about what you've learnt from my book. Have you managed to get through it? What's the issue? Why can't you do it? Just set out a page a day. Come on, look. This is very Jordan Peterson with his approach to therapy. And you know, in his book, 12 Rules for Life, he's got this bit where he tells people, and because he was a clinical psychologist for 25 years practicing, he consulted with a lot of people, and he discovered that there's so many broken people out there that couldn't even make their beds of a morning or tidy up their sock drawer. And so he would set people tasks. Make your bed. See if you can make your bed one day a week. Just fucking start humbly low. See if you can get out of bed one morning a week. Doesn't matter what day it is. Make your bed once a week. And then see if you can do it twice. And then see if you can do it 3 times. And then when you feel pretty accomplished with making your bed every day, as soon as you get out, then start on your sock drawer. Tidy up your sock drawer. And you know, this sounds absurd, doesn't it? It really does sound absurd on a certain level. But when we start looking at the minds of troubled people, I don't want to say necessarily sick, but people that are very troubled, the last thing they're ever going to think about is cleaning up their sock drawer or making their bed. And when you think about the level of discipline and duty it takes to make your bed every morning without forgetting and without having really to remember it and, you know, write it on your forehead so when you look in the mirror, you know, when you're brushing your teeth, if you ever do, then you remember, oh, I've got to make the bed. You know, making my bed and keeping very orderly has been something that was just natural to me. I always did it. And I've always been very, very disciplined and regimented in my whole life. It's just my disposition. It's my nature. My elder brother, when I used to live at home in the early days, he wouldn't tidy anything. He wouldn't clean anything. He would never make his bed or, you know, fold his clothes or anything like this. And I noticed a profound difference between him and me, even at that age, say like 8 or 9 years old. And I kept everything very, very structured. And I had a good memory, and I was studious, and all these sorts of things. And he wasn't. And to this day, I don't think he's ever read a book in his life. And he's like 63. And his house is a shithole. And so, you know, I used to have a furniture removing business. And I started it from scratch and I built it up over a 10-year period, and then I sold it for £250,000. And I moved a lot of people, thousands of people, and I saw how they lived. And lots of people are very, very structured and organised. They have to be in this day and age to be successful because you've got so much to do. And if you don't make your bed, then it means you don't change the sheets that often, and you don't pay attention to your own cleanliness, and there's a whole bunch of things. You know, when I was growing up in my village, there was one of our friends who didn't have a father in his house because his father apparently ran away with this woman he met at crib one night. So he and his brother, who turned out to be gay, probably something to do with not having a father figure in his life, never cleaned their teeth, and they never brushed their hair. And then when we'd see them at school, all the hair was stuck up here and stuck up there, and you think, what the fuck's going on? But there was no regiment in the house. The mother had obviously given up. She was probably sick herself. She was probably on medication. You don't know, all these different sorts of things. But these brothers, 2 years apart they were, tall and skinny and gangly. They had very, very dirty teeth. And the one we used to hang around with, where his lips came down on his teeth, there was like, it was a little bit clean, where his lips had rubbed it all off. But below that, it was actually thick yellow and brown. So one day, me and my elder brother were like, what the fuck? You clean your teeth, don't you clean your teeth? And when we went into his bathroom, we discovered that there were no toothbrushes in his bathroom. And we're like, what the fucking hell's your toothbrushes? And he didn't have a toothbrush, nor did his mother. And the toilet paper was this like tracing paper stuff. You know, the real cheap stuff that you used to get in the old days. You don't get it anymore now. You get, you know, fluffy fucking Andrex stuff. You know, everyone's got that. But he had this, you know, this tracing paper stuff. When you wipe your arse, it just slipped off on the shit. And it didn't do anything. It didn't absorb anything. It didn't wipe anything. And I was aghast at that. I started to realise the vast difference between our household and many other people's. Friends who didn't do all these sorts of things. Because my household was exceedingly regimented. It was run like an army camp, and we were all expected to carry out chores and duties, and to absolutely make our beds. We couldn't even go downstairs of a morning time without making our beds, getting fully dressed, combing and wetting down our hair and doing all that stuff that you do, washing and cleaning your teeth. There's no way we are ever allowed to step 1 foot on those stairs going down without doing any of that. And, you know, it's a very good thing to have that level of discipline. So then when we went to the breakfast bar, it was like, you know, going to a breakfast bar in a hotel. We'd go into the cupboard and we'd pick out our cereal, and then we'd do the cereal, and after we'd had the cereal, we would wash our bowl and our spoon, we'd dry it up and we'd put it back. So our stepmother didn't even know we'd been to the fucking breakfast bar, because she had so many babies to look after. She wasn't about to clean up after all of us older ones as well. So we learned very, very quickly that we had to do all this stuff. And it was us kids that had to do the washing up. And when you got a family of kind of like, well, I've got 11 brothers and sisters, but at any given time in the household, I suppose, you know, there was at least 8 or 9 brothers and sisters. So you got a family of 11, and that's a lot. It's a lot of pots and pans, people. And so it's a big operation for our stepmother and father to cook for us. And we got cooked a full meal, a meat and vegetables meal, every single day. Never were we told to put some chips in the oven. Oh, there's the frozen pizza on. No, never. That used to happen with the vast majority of my friends. When I used to go around their houses after school, that's all they'd get. They'd get given 50 pence to go to get a bag of chips. A bag of fucking chips. And that was it. That was their evening meal. Whereas in our family, we'd sit down around 2 tables. We'd have a breakfast bar, which was a table which was between 2 rooms, the kitchen and the lounge. So we could fit like 8 bodies at the breakfast bar, and then if there's any more, we'd go into the lounge and sit at a big dining table, and we'd eat our food there. But so everything was very, very regimented, and we were all very, very healthy and strong. And the elderly people in the village always used to comment on how shiny our hair was as kids. Very well looked after, we had good complexions and all that stuff. So when people, this particular person, says to me, how about instead of like being critical of your viewers, why don't you consider that we need you? And why don't you read a page a day for us? And I'm like, wow. I was really quite taken aback by that. Because what does that say? That tells me that potentially you and other people are not even capable of reading a page a day yourselves. Because your minds are in such a space, it's the last thing you think about. Because as soon as you wake up, you've got trauma going on inside your mind. And over the years I've met many people who have been like this and are like this, and it doesn't matter how many psychiatrists or psychologists they go to see, how many medications they're on, it never solves the problem, save maybe a little bit. It makes them a little bit better on some occasions, these psychotropics. Psychedelics, on the other hand, that is said often to cure much of this stuff, because it transforms your life. It transforms the way you think about your whole world. Psychedelics, people. But psychotropics, they just dull the mind down. They reduce the activity, and people find that marginally beneficial. So when this person says, why don't you do that? I'm like, fucking hell. I mean, I've given my life, 15 years of my life, thousands of videos. You know, at a bare minimum 5,000 videos. Probably it's somewhere more in the region of 7,000 videos over a 15-year period. And I'm like, well, that's kind of like a care of duty that I don't really want to get involved in. Because it's kind of like, wow, do I have to consider that I have people so potentially sick mentally that they cannot read a book themselves, not even a page a day, so they do not tidy up their sock drawer, they do not make their beds, and Lord knows I've been in many houses where people don't do this. I went into one particular house which was a group of Indian lads, and they're about 22 years old, and they just used to sleep on mattresses. One of them actually had some sort of a crappy bed, the other two got mattresses on the floor, and one of them had a sheet on it where the other two never had a sheet on it. But this sheet, it was like this Brentford nylon tailored sheet whereby you stretch it over the corners and you know it doesn't come off. But it had never ever been changed. What had happened in time, his body had worn through the fabric and it was only hanging on to the mattress on its four corners, and there was a big like diamond shape hole in it where the sheet had slowly ruched up to the edges. And I'm like, wow, these people live in a different world. They live in a different world. And trying to help them, I don't know whether it is doable, because the Catholic mantra, give me a child from 1 to 7 and I'll give you the man or the woman, due to that level of conditioning and indoctrination. Now, like I say, my household was very regimented and we couldn't get away with any of this slovenly stuff. There's too many kids to, go to the breakfast table and get a packet of cereal out and have it in your bowl and then just fucking leave it on the table. There's too many kids to be allowed to do this. And we weren't allowed to do it ever. Never. From the very get-go, we were never allowed to leave a trace of our existence in that house. And so, that's one of the reasons I am like I am. But I was already like that, because my brother lived under the same household as well as my sisters and brothers and sisters and that. And I don't know about most of them because I've never really seen my other brothers and sisters. We're too estranged. There's too much of an age gap. But the three from my mother, one elder brother and two younger sisters, well, they're dirty fuckers. To degrees. The brother's the worst, but the two sisters, they don't pay too much attention to detail. And yet they had to do this when we was all living under the one roof. So whilst they had to do it, they did it. But as soon as they didn't have to do it, they don't do it anymore. But me, I continued to do it to the point whereby, my sister, who's closer to me, has been closer to me, would call me obsessive and OCD and these sort of things. And, to a degree, I am, but it's healthy. It's just like anybody that's been in the army or in the forces. They know how to look after themselves. They know how to present themselves impeccably on parade. They know how to fold all their gear up. They know how to polish their boots. They know how to clean their weapon, because all this stuff is imperative. But the vast majority of people these days don't have that sort of guidance. And so, the amount of my friends, well, every single one of them never had a household, a regiment, like I did. And people were very, very surprised and shocked when they used to come around our house to see how big the house was, how many kids lived in it, and how spotless the place was. Absolutely spotless. Because we'd all have chores to vacuum the whole fucking house and clean the fucking polish the windows, and even the picture rails, we used to have to fucking dust alongside those and in the corners, because the stepmother would check in the corner if there's any dust, and if there's any dust there we'd have to do the whole fucking thing again. And I've spoken about this for years. Some of you would have heard it before, but that's the regime I lived under. But I learned to respect, if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing properly. And so I always did everything properly. And then my old man knew that he could depend on me, so he ended up employing me for many years in his businesses. And then when I was mature in my own right and he were retired, then I used to employ him in my businesses, because we could work together, you see, because we saw eye to eye. Whereas my elder brother, he would borrow the old man's tools and then just leave them on the driveway in the fucking bushes, or, the old man used to be fucking furious. Absolutely furious, because in my old man's shed he would have a big fucking board like that, like 8 feet by 6 feet, and he'd have all his tools hanging on, and he would spray over all of the tools, so when one was removed there was a blank patch where that tool should be. That way, initially, he knew everything. He knew where all his tools were, and he knew he'd got what he needed. And that's brilliant, to keep everything in vision, rather than have it in toolboxes and you got to pull this out, oh, it's in here somewhere, that sort of thing. So when my brother used to take one of those tools, my man would go in the shed and he'd go, oi, cunt, where's that fucking blah blah? And the older brother, I don't know, you fucking better know, mate, otherwise you ain't fucking eating for the next fucking 2 weeks. So don't come back in the fucking house until you found it. And then he'd find it, because he left it down the fucking driveway in the fucking shrubbery and shit like that, after he'd been fixing his bike. Insufferable. And so now he lives in a dirty fucking disorganised home, and he's never fucking made anything or been anywhere or done anything. He's never had his own businesses, nothing like that. Whereas I've had multiple businesses and I've been successful. Anyway, people, so I'm digressing, but all this stuff is very important. So when this woman says to me, why don't you read a page a day for us and consider that we need you? I'm like, wow. So I've got quite a lot of people watching my videos, been around for a long, long time, that cannot in actual fact read a page a day of their own jurisdiction. They can't tidy up their sock drawer, and they probably have never made their bed. On the other hand, there's people that probably can do lots of that stuff, but they just don't lend themselves to being able to read, because there's all too much stuff going on. They can never settle, they can never be still, they can never apply a level of concentration on that, because it's too much of a privilege in this day and age, because they've got too much to do. Now, Some of you may be architects, you may be mathematicians, you may be very, very good at lots of things, but your vocation takes up all of your life. And so outside of your vocation, you ain't got no time for privileges like exercise regimes and meditation and reading and things like that. Those things, people, are privileges of kings. People who don't have to work in any shape or form. People who have the life of leisure because everybody else does that for them. And so, I'm always saying that what I've done in my life, I've looked at this world and I've discerned that it's a certain way, but I don't like the way it is, and I don't want to be a part of that because it isn't conducive to how I want to live my life. So I've looked at the world, I've analysed the world, I've assessed the world, and I've got abreast of the world, and I've done all the things necessary to emancipate myself from slavery, from having any responsibility as far as government's concerned or any boss or anything like that. I don't have any responsibility. I have turned things around, and now the government have responsibility for me. They are responsible for my well-being, and I use all their facilities. And it's horses for courses, people. It's how you've used your mind and what you've thought about. Many people would never have thought about, how can I do this? How can I reverse this global thing whereby we are slaves? We're all indentured slaves. We're born into slavery. We're actually sold to banks, people, when we are born. Our birth certificate, it's a certificate of taxation. It's a certificate of ownership. Just like when ships would come into a harbour and they would berth their goods, well, they would have to pay tax on those goods. So when your parents have registered you with the births and deaths, they've registered you as a property, goods which has been birthed onto the continent, whatever you've been born into. And then you have a tax number on the back of your birth certificate, and then it is logged. The original one is logged with the bank. And the bank then allocates an amount of money to you in case you fail to fulfill your obligation to them, which is to work up until you're 65 or 70 years old. They do actually have a fund which they will give you if you can't meet those requirements, if you're mentally ill or if you're physically ill, or if you work the system in such a way whereby you can run rings around them, then they have to pay you. But they're not paying you with any real money. It's just a fiction. It's fiat money. It's just numbers. It's just numbers, people. So I'm getting those numbers. And I know about those numbers, and I know how to obtain those numbers, and so now I'm going to be getting those numbers, the zeros and ones, in my bank account forever. And some people could get to thinking, oh, we're paying our tax to look after you. You're not, because there's no such thing as money premised or based on anything tangible and real. It's all fiat money, people. It's been fiat for a long, long time. It's not based on gold, it's not based on silver, it's not based on oil, materials, and nothing. It's just paper, and the numbers are fiction. And the only reason the world is surviving under that system is because people believe in it. And they believe that the paper they're holding in their hand has a value. And as long as everybody believes that, then it will have value. As soon as people stop believing in it, then the value will fall out the bottom of it in an instant. And that's what happens when we have global economic crashes. That money isn't worth what you think it is. So, people, so me reading a page a day to serve you, the viewer. Well, I'm always saying to you, aren't I? I'm saying, look, I've served you for 15 years. I serve you with thousands and thousands of very, very interesting and informative videos. And so I'm always asking you to give a little bit back. But most of you don't want to, or can't, or not interested, for a whole myriad of reasons. And this has been a bone of contention of mine for many, many years whilst I've been doing what I've been doing. And so I hold a certain amount of resentment for those of you that don't put comments down, that don't even bother to thumb up the video, to help the video in the algorithms so it gets out to see more people and helps more people. You know, how many of you, remark on any videos that was really interesting, that's informative. Thank you very much for that. Why don't you give me something? I'm always giving you, this is what I've always been saying, but then it's kind of like, well, you people, you must be dead, you must be muppets, you numpties, because you don't even recognize that, when people are making these YouTube videos, they are providing a service for you. And if they're anything like me, then I'm not getting any money from it. I'm not getting nothing from it. I'm just wearing my voice out and wasting my life feeding you. But it's to no avail, because there's no respect there, is there? Because if there was respect there, then from time to time you'd be putting some money, in my fucking PayPal account, or you'd be doing something. Don't get me wrong, over the years, long-term viewers, you've done this. But a higher percentage really needs to realise what's going on here on YouTube. But because there's so many videos out there, everybody just takes for granted that they're already catered for, they're already earning something. And most people probably are, because they're earning off the AdSense. That's the Google advertising, so they get a little bit from that, depending on how many times the videos get watched and what adverts come on the videos. But I ban adverts on my videos. I'm not even registered for AdSense, because they don't allow people who use bad language to have AdSense, because this is the era that we're in. And so due to my profanity in my videos, then they've just told me, we're not allowing you to earn money from this channel until you change your ways. And I'm never going to change my ways, because I'm going to be free to the end. And so, when you people, you decide that was a really good video, that really helped me, then, just think about being reciprocal, giving something back, maybe asking me what book I would like, or, putting something in a PayPal, or just even writing a comment of appreciation. It's like what Jordan Peterson says, let's start at the fucking bottom. Start by putting a thumb up. Every time you watch one of my videos, because you come back time and time again, let's start by putting a thumb up. Let's see if you can even do that. And most of you can't do that, because I've gone over and over and over this for fucking years, and it never changes anything. Okay, if I have a right good rant on one video, then people will put the thumb up there, but the next video they won't do it. And they're back to the same again. They're back to not making their bed and not clean up their fucking sock drawer. So we can clearly see that many human beings are actual fucking wrecks. They are complete and utter fucking train wrecks. And so I suppose the rest of us who are able-bodied should have pity on them. But we can't live our life issuing out fucking pity and having the greatest of compassion for the weak and the lazy and all the rest of it, because it's too complicated and it's too draining, and so we just got to get on with our fucking lives. I do as much as I can to help humanity, my fellow man, who I'm so scornful of, but I keep coming back, don't I? I keep coming back, I keep coming back, and I keep coming back. And one of the main reasons I'm scornful is to give you a fucking shake up and start you get thinking in a different way, and shake you out of your lethargy, out of your laziness, and out of your thinking that the fucking universe owes you something. It doesn't. It's given you all that it's got to give you. That's life, and you'll make of that what you fucking make of it.